downfall of Bonnie Blue is genuinely wild. Hello, you gorgeous donuts. I don't think we've ever seen a more notorious creator in the last 5 years than Bonnie Blue. This woman's name at one point sent a shiver down many people's spines. And with this, somehow out of nowhere, she became like an overnight celebrity and was in everybody's mouth. Honestly, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing this woman's name at one point, like somebody saying, oh, like, have you heard what Bonnie Blue's just done? For people that don't know who Blue is, she is an OF creator and also, I guess, like an influencer. And she became very famous for pulling stunts that no other OF creator had done before. And these stunts weren't just, you know, your casual kind of, you know, doing content. They were incredibly sinister, okay? Now, later in this video, we're going to cover all of these stunts that Blue has done, all of the things that helped her gain her notoriety. And at the end of this video, we're going to have a look at how Blue is doing today and how her name has definitely fallen off in terms of how many people talking about her and how she's definitely not as famous as what she was in 2025, 2024 and the brand switch she's starting to make. Because I find this entire case with Blue fascinating, as I definitely think it's a cautionary tale on choosing the fast track to fame and how it can fall off just as quick. But before we get onto all of that and discussing Bonnie's rise, I want to discuss what Bonnie was like before fame, like a little bit of like early context to her life, to see if it gives you any clues to why she chose to do what she did. Now, Blue was actually born in 1999, which I find mental because she's younger than me. I don't know why, but looking up Blue, I just never thought she was younger than me. Like, that's crazy. Is that crazy? I mean, I am unk status, so I guess it's not that crazy right now. Thanks to everyone in the last video calling me young. Obviously, her real name is not Blue. A lot of these OF people that do it, male and female, they give themselves an alias so that, you know, their stuff doesn't get leaked, basically, their home stuff. This is public knowledge. She's actually called Tia Billinger. You know, I'm not exposing this. This is out there on so many articles. And she actually grew up in a little village in Derbyshire called Draycott, and I believe she had many younger siblings. Now, apparently when Bonnie was younger, she did have very normal hobbies. She used to like go dancing, specifically street dancing apparently, and she actually entered many competitions, specifically one in Glasgow, and I believe she also did exams in ballet and tap, which I just wouldn't suspect. I don't know why, but I guess, you know, you would have normal hobbies before doing something like what she ended up doing. It's like Netflix documentaries. They always go, well, when they were younger they were totally fine, and then, you know, they got older and they became a bloody maniac. It's like, was there not nothing in their teens? Now, a lot of people who knew Bonnie in school have came out and said she was very popular. She had friends in like the older years. She definitely was one of those people that because she had friends in the older years, she thought she was min, you know, like people that talked to people that were older. There was like girls in my school would get like a boyfriend in an older year and automatically for some reason that made them really cool. And after leaving school, she would actually get a job at Pound Stretcher. Okay, one of the people, come on. And around this time, she also met her boyfriend who did go to private school. That was like all of the articles around this time saying that she grew up quite wealthy because her boyfriend was, you know, in a private school. Obviously lived a very middle class life, I guess. But then Bonnie would actually get a job in recruitment. It's reported with the NHS, and her boyfriend would actually buy a house together. And at this point, I definitely think, you know, a very similar stage to what I'm at in my life, where I'm with my girlfriend. You know, you're kind of like settling down and things. It's kind of a normal thing to do, I guess. You know, you find someone that you like. You're like, you know what, you're all right. Do you want to get a house together? If we can afford it, right? Come on then, let's do it. In an article that was published about Bonnie Blue, one of her ex-friends apparently said both her and her then boyfriend were young when they met, but they were close and had big plans for their life together. I just think the plans must have been very different. It was a very stable relationship, which is quite unusual when you're at that age. So many people were saying like they seem to be very level-headed and have their whole life mapped out. They were very like down to earth around this point. And apparently Bonnie around this time also had plans to be a midwife as well, which again is a very respectable job to have, a very good job. Yet Bonnie's life would turn upside down when she would move to Australia with her husband at this point, and she would actually choose to be a cam girl over there, which obviously is a lot different to, you know, the recruitment and possible midwife career that she was going to have over here. I don't know what happened when she got to Australia. I don't know, did she get to Melbourne and she was like, you know what, the cam life's for me? Okay, just feeling myself, you know, put that bloody camera on, husband. Anyone else do that? Not me. I'm not really a sexy guy, honestly, guys. I just don't really have that kind of appeal about us. Nothing is sexy about me, genuinely. Apparently the reasoning behind Bonnie starting this was she was like sick of the mundane 9-to-5 lifestyle. She wanted something different for herself, I guess a little bit of like an adrenaline rush. She chose being a cam girl, which I guess does offer that avenue. And Bonnie said on a podcast that within a week of being a cam girl, she made more than she ever could have in her recruitment recruitment job, which obviously, if you're someone that is very money driven and, you know, you're not really asked about, you know, getting your bits out on camera, this is probably going to be a really good sign for you to continue. And this led to Bonnie changing from being just a cam girl, I guess, to having an OF account so she could branch out into other things and I guess take more control of your earnings. And I believe this is also where she created the alias Bonnie Blue, which would be the springboard for our brand moving forward and what everybody would then know her as. And I do find it interesting, around this time she was quoted in saying, "My mum said to me as a kid, don't be a town bike, but now me being a bike has paid for our bills." Obviously, you know my opinion on Blue if you've seen my previous videos, but I will give... That's a funny quote. Just how cutthroat it is. Yeah, my mum told us to not be a bike, but, you know, I chose to pedal. I chose to be that Carrera and just go into the distance. I've got stump pegs and everything. Hopefully she doesn't. I don't think you can do that as a human. That would be awful. Do you want to back her, love? Nah, it doesn't sound as great when it's about your body. Now, Bonnie said that her husband was very, like, supportive of her starting an OF account. However, her and her husband actually would split up after 10 years. And I believe this would be the point in which Bonnie would really take things to the next level. It seemed like the seatbelt was off, and now she could do anything without kind of hurting someone's feelings, possibly. And she would go completely feral after this. There's no other word to describe it. Tia was no longer at the wheel. It is Blue. It's like Venom and Eddie Brock. You know, they're just two totally different people. Who's at the wheel? But this would actually lead to many alarming events taking place that, you know, received so much criticism, and rightly so. One of the first instances where Bonnie would gain a lot of notoriety was when she did her kind of Schoolies tour in Australia. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, Schoolies Week is like a tradition in Australia. It obviously lasts a week, and I believe it's for year 12 students. It's to like celebrate like the end of their exams so they can kind of go wild, and I guess Bonnie took this as like an example to kind of, you know, I guess attack. But what you've got to remember as well is obviously these are like, you know, young people. They're like, I guess like 18 years old, a lot of these people. And Bonnie would kind of market herself as a way that these guys could like sleep with her as long as she could film it, like it was free. They could come to her and she also get something out of it.
Hey parents, remember when you signed a petition to get me banned from schoolies? Well, guess what? Not only is my bang bus there, but I have the most amount of fluids to ever give back. So don't worry, your son is going to be incredibly hydrated.
Oh, so good.
Well, I can guarantee you your son absolutely loved it, and I've got liquid evidence of your son having a good time with me. People seem to think the more hate I'm going to get, the more I'm going to slow down, but it's the complete opposite. It started last year for schoolies in November. Loads of them was messaging me like, hey, we want to film with you. Hey, you know, can we make a video?
And one thing I instantly picked up on when these clips were circulating of Blue is she very clearly has a script that she follows. Like, she says the same thing all the time so that she doesn't get caught out, and she knows how to rage bait people. Like, if there's one thing that Bonnie is very successful, and the reason why she's got, you know, the name she has, is because she's able to get under people's skin. People hate her, and that like feeds into her brand. We're going to see later in this video how this no longer works, but at this point it was thriving for her. She would also use horrific terms such as like, oh, I want to sleep with like barely legal teens and barely legal people, and the phrase barely legal obviously just sounds horrific, because what even does barely legal mean? You're either legal or you're not. Like, what is barely legal? Like, you've just turned 18. Even that in itself is just a weird way to frame things. Now, this phrase would obviously catch fire, and it really was Bonnie Blue's first example of going really, really viral. This was the first time I at least had heard of her. Now, I didn't actually know this, but when researching, you know, her first schoolies, apparently it was actually shut down because her visa got revoked, and this actually denied her like entry to the country to work. I think she was going to come on like a holiday visa, but she would be working, so then it wouldn't actually have made sense, and, you know, they kind of blocked her entry, which is kind of wild that the country were like, nah, you're not coming here and shagging our barely legal teens. Now, shockingly, this wouldn't be the last time that Bonnie Blue was actually revoked from being in a country. The immigration minister of Fiji actually banned Bonnie Blue from coming there. Terrible use of phrase. And just being in there in general, I guess. His exact words were, Bonnie is a prohibited immigrant, exercising his authority under the Immigration Act. So basically, she would be a fugitive if she did come to Fiji. However, getting banned from these countries, again, actually fed into the overall marketing scheme that Blue wanted. Like, she from very early clearly had a very smart team around them that knew how to get people talking about her, because at this point in her career, her online presence, all press was good press. It didn't matter if it was negative, because people were still talking about her. Because at this point in her career, all she wants is impressions basically refers to just somebody hearing about you or being in front of somebody. They don't need to click, they don't need to watch, but just even seeing their name makes you more familiar with them. It's almost like getting into people's subconscious minds. And around this point, another way that Blue was able to kind of get her name out there even more was the weird rivalry she had with another OF creator called Lily Phillips. They had this kind of weird like tit for tat thing where if one of them did an event, the other one would better it, and then the other one would better that, and I don't really know, it was some sort of like competition, I think, and it helped them both. Nobody knows if they were both kind of working together to kind of, you know, propel them both, but I know as of today from seeing clips, they don't seem to be friends at all. I don't think they like each other now, and you're going to see why. As Lily Phillips would do an event where she was sleeping with 100 guys in 24 hours. Obviously a horrific thing. We have done a full video on my other channel covering Josh Peters' documentary on that. It is quite interesting if you want to go and watch it after this. But obviously that is just a horrific thing to put yourself through, and what's even more horrific, by the way, is that 100 guys would turn up to that. I was thinking at that time, but I don't think I said it, do you think if one guy, like, you know, a guy that girls find attractive, did this challenge, 100 girls would queue up? I don't think so, and that is what is the most intriguing thing about the whole Bonnie Blue saga, is yes, we can criticize Bonnie Blue, but it also exposes how just abhorrent some guys are that they would actually take an opportunity to be in a line like this. That's not discussed enough. Now, because Lily did this challenge and the beef that she had with Blue, Bonnie would decide to take this to the next level and announce that she would be sleeping with 1,000 guys in 12 hours. When I saw this announcement, and still to this day, like, this is my opinion, this is not fact, I don't believe that she did actually sleep with that many people, because Lily Phillips actually did sleep with like 100 guys in 24 hours, and it was so tight, the time, like, I just can't even fathom how you could do 1,000 in 12. It just doesn't make any sense. But nevertheless, that's what the event was marketed as, and this was definitely, I guess, if you could even call it a pinnacle, but the most she was ever talked about. If there was a peak in her career, this was weirdly it.
We decided to do groups to start with to help with numbers and also give people, and I guess, an ease in, because they're seeing other people, they can also watch while somebody else is taking their turn, because a lot of people enjoy that. Then we went on to one-to-one, and they had about 40 seconds max before we'd keep swapping.
Nice, you know, got a rigid system, a little algorithm, you know, for any of the nerds, if any of the nerds wanted to be like, oh my god, okay, so the click-through rate of the... No, not me. There'll be someone in the corner probably working out the stats. And one way that Bonnie would really, really ramp up the marketing for this event was kind of annoying the wives and partners and like mothers of the men that would be turning up to this event, just to get them talking about it too. So she was kind of covering all bases and annoying anybody she could.
We all know how bad wives and girlfriends are at keeping baby daddies in their life, but me, I'm going to keep all 1,057 men in mine. What's your excuse?
Now, I actually think this was one of her biggest mistakes in terms of, you know, her future brand and transitioning into something else. Clearly, at this point, she just wanted to piss off anybody she could, and she didn't mind, like, you know, offering an opportunity for the husbands or whatever boyfriends of these people to cheat. Now, obviously, she does have to take some responsibility for doing this event, but most of the responsibility again does lie with the boyfriends and husbands. You know, they do have their own brain, they can just not go to this. But I just didn't like that she was like dissing the wives and, you know, partners, and it's I just didn't like the vibe of it. It's just not nice. Not only is their partner cheating on them, but the person they've cheated on them with is also gloating about it. And around this point, this was also like a huge part of her brand, like tearing down other women for not serving men, and it's very like misogynistic. You know, I don't know if that's just internal within her at this point, or if it's part of the Blue brand and it's not actually what she believes in, but she knows that this is what gets impressions. Whatever the reasoning is, it still impacts women in the same way, and it still kind of gives off this horrific vibe that, you know, women are only there to serve men. The message is the same either way. Now, we've done a video reacting to this event. I'm not going to react to all of the thing again, but one thing I did think that was really weird was how guys in the queue were like filming it. It was so strange and weird looking back. Like, barefoot, socks. Why did you have to take your shoes off? Why are some people in bare feet? Like, this was the most confusing thing. Why has he got no pants on? Why have people got trainers on? Like, some people came dressed in nothing, but some people have got like a puffer coat on. Like, what was the dress code to this? You know? Like, friends in group chat, are they like, oh, what you wearing? Right, are you? Are you wearing jeans? I'm not wearing anything, me. I'm just going prepared. Oh yeah, right, yeah. Honestly, if anyone watching actually did go to one of these things, like, you need a good long look at yourself in the mirror. I'm not trying to, like, you know, bring more shame into your life, but just know that this is absolutely horrific. This was a low point in your life. If I found out one of my mates went to this, genuinely, I would never let them forget it. Now, after the event actually took place, photos did get revealed of, you know, the aftermath, and it was horrific. As you can see, you know, that is one of the worst things ever. Like, how can that room ever be used for anything else ever again? Why is there art in the room as well? This is so confusing. Was someone painting while this was all going on? Why is there a hammock? Was somebody asleep? How could you sleep during this? Again, I know I've said it over and over, but I guess the only good thing about Blue being a thing was that it did expose how, like, awful some guys are and how just horny they are, like how down bad some guys are, that you could walk into that room and still do your especially, like, I'm not, you know, obviously Bonnie Blue wanted to do this, but she's still, I'm not trying to make her a victim, but she's still in a vulnerable state, you know, like if 100 guys have been before you and you score, like, that is, like, she's, like, vulnerable, you know? It's like you're taking advantage, and I know she's giving you the permission, but it just doesn't sit right with it. No matter how much time she would be like, I'm fine, I'd be like, nah, you know, it's not for me, this, like, not for me. Gun to my head, couldn't do it. Now, weirdly, mainstream media decided they wanted to cover this. I think they saw the success of Josh Peters' documentary with Lily Phillips, and Channel 4 actually, you know, followed her and talked about this whole event. Now, I did watch this documentary in preparation for this video, and I was looking at many articles to kind of see if any of them kind of, you know, found or picked up on something I didn't, because I didn't think there was much substance to the documentary in terms of figuring out who this person actually is, because that's what people are intrigued with, in my opinion, or at least that's what I'm intrigued by, is why would you want to do this? I don't want to see all of the horrific, like, things that you're doing and all of this and how you're rage baiting people. I want to understand, like, deeper, like, is there a deeper reasoning behind this? And in my opinion, the documentary, I think it failed to do that. The Guardian picked up on one quote, which I also did pick up on as well, where Bonnie basically says, everyone says my brain works different, I'm just not emotional, and if I don't want to get upset, I won't get upset. Now, when she did say that, it kind of gave me a little bit of clarity in my head, thinking, okay, so she can kind of just emotionally switch off when she wants to. Like, I'm not that type of person. I feel like I have my, like, heart on my sleeve, like, stuff affects me, but clearly for her, she's got this, like, metal skin if she wants to, and she can't just be like, yeah, I don't think this is weird if I don't want to think this is weird. But again, it is very superficial in my opinion, and it's the same kind of robot personality that she's always put to the forefront. There's nothing really to relate to or empathize a lot of the time with Bonnie, because she has this wall of a character, and I do think it's because if she didn't have that, she possibly would feel pain, you know, the amount of hate she gets, she would penetrate the system and it would get to her, so that's probably why she just puts a character on. Again, guys, I'm not trying to sympathize with her at all. In this video, I just want to kind of understand, you know, that's why I'm doing this, to kind of understand why she was doing these things and understand in general, because, you know, you've seen in videos before, I've criticized this woman, and I'm not just going to do this for the entire video again. I want to kind of go a bit deeper this time, because this is my last ever video on her. I said 9 months ago or 8 months ago when we done our last one, I wouldn't cover this woman ever again until I thought it was at an end, and this is where we're at right now, as you're going to see later on. And after this documentary aired, and, you know, she got obviously a lot more criticism, I do think that Bonnie started to show a little bit of a human side in terms of being a little bit vulnerable and being a bit defensive, because before it looked like nothing hurt her, but now the criticism definitely was getting to her. Like she said in an interview with Yahoo, there's been a lot of judgment and jealousy. I had an old friend come up to me and say that I have no respect for myself and I don't deserve anything in return. Another close friend tells me how her friends think she shouldn't be friends with me anymore. I don't mind. They are judging me for having $1 million business while they live with their parents and have to work for someone else. Now, straight away, that to me is a bit of an attack back. Like, if it didn't affect you, you could be like, you know what, I appreciate you giving your opinion, but I'm not going to take it on board. Like, that to me is like, I don't get affected. But the fact she had a little bit of, like, you know, a little bit of spite to, like, go, oh, well, you work a job for someone, as if that's any worse than what she's doing. I picked up a lot from that and thought, okay, you actually are affected by this criticism a lot of the time. You just don't show it. She also went on to say, I've recommended this job to many family members on this trip that she was on when she done the interview. I doubt that's a great family business to get it. Now, because she had a lot of mainstream attention, she actually got picked up to go on This Morning somehow on the morning. I don't know why they would get her, you know, at like breakfast time to talk about what she does. And obviously this just wasn't received well. It got nearly 200 Ofcom complaints due to the explicit content, and it just wasn't a really great conversation in general. It didn't really achieve anything in my opinion. And I definitely think this was the start of Bonnie kind of just going a little bit down from, you know, the 1,000 men challenge. It's very hard to constantly shock people. Like, you can shock people for like the first year or 2 years if you're constantly building on it, which she was. But once you do such a horrific event like 1,000 people in a single day, where do you go from there? I know it sounds horrific, but if she did 2,000, it doesn't shock you because you know she's capable of it. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, the shock value is gone, and that is really worrying when you build your entire brand around the shock value being the core of it, especially when there's no substance underneath to fall back on. And I remember saying this at the time. I think this is going to be a little bit of a downward trajectory now because there's no way you can get back up to that level. But Bonnie would try when she would announce her petting zoo.
What challenges do you have next?
Blue's petting zoo. I am going to be in a glass box, tied up, and it's going to be open for the public.
Oh my God.
Get me in the box, but people can join me to me, touch me, just look at me.
Where?
I'm going to be in the centre of London, but in a house.
Oh, okay. Not
In a
like,
house, in a
right,
glass
okay.
box, yeah.
So I was thinking like David Blaine.
I mean, I'd love to be on the back of a lorry in a glass box.
You were thinking David Blaine, love. The magician. Oh yeah, remember when he got bloody shagged 1,000 times? That was me greatest trick, that. Actually, you haven't been doing me. You've been doing a pig the entire time. Unlucky ladies. Again, this obviously is just a horrific thing. And it definitely got a lot of people talking about it. I'm not going to doubt that. Like, people were saying, oh my God, how could she do this? But when she announced this, I was like, yeah, she probably will do something like that because this is the type of person she is. I wasn't shocked as I was when she announced the 1,000 thing, which again is worrying because she's not going to be getting as many people talking about it. Now, this didn't actually happen because OF actually banned her off the platform as they said that this would like go against their terms of service. But the 1,000 men was fine, you know, that's alright. Now, as we progress with 2025 and Bonnie's kind of image, she would do some other things to kind of get her name out there, but again, it wasn't really talked about as much. One was the bang bus. She basically got this bus cover saying bang bus, and she would be sleeping with people in the van apparently.
Bang bus, and I'm going to start at the top of the country, work my way down,
Wow,
and visit as many universities as possible to bang so many barely legals.
very nice. How are people going to be able to sign up for that?
Just come queue at the bus, and let me give you a very good ride.
Now, obviously, you can tell she thinks she's, you know, baiting people here, but from what I remember when she announced this, like, people posted about it, but I don't think people were angry anymore. I think people just didn't feel anything. And that's almost like a kryptonite. That's almost the worst thing that can happen to somebody who builds a brand like Blue. You want people to love it or hate it, but if people feel nothing, that is where you start to fall off because your entire brand is kind of dead at that point. And around this point, I wasn't making videos on any of this anymore because I took a stand to be like, I'm not gonna kind of keep platforming this until there's a point where I feel like, you know, attention doesn't actually benefit her, which I think right now, like, you know, I don't think this video benefits her in any sort of way. But there was some wild content that did come from this bang bus era, if we're gonna call it that. Like, some guys were like chasing after the bus. It was very strange. Like, imagine your fella chases after Bonnie Blue's bang bus, man. You'd be absolutely devastated, man, wouldn't you? And after this bang bus tour, like, you didn't really hear much from her. She was doing little things, but they weren't gaining the attention. And like, I had predicted that this was going to happen. Like, she would eventually get to a point where just people don't care anymore. The one time that people actually started talking about her a little bit was when she was deported from Bali recently. She was found guilty of a minor traffic offence but was deported for an immigration violation due to working on a tourist visa, very similar to why Australia banned her. The 26-year-old was one of 34 people detained when police raided a production studio in Bali, prompting a police investigation. Now, it says here that, you know, Indonesia is Muslim majority, which strictly forbids the production of pornographic material, so obviously you just can't do this kind of thing in the country. It's like such a British thing, thinking I can just take my values to another country and it'll be fine, as if this is British values. But they were found guilty of violating these laws and they faced up to 12 years in prison. So it did look quite brutal at one point, and people were saying like she could actually be going away here. And also a fine of $270,000 was allegedly being claimed to have been made. However, Bonnie only actually had to pay a fine, what related to, like, it says here, £9. Like a £9 fine for committing an act against the law. And if she paid that, she was able to leave Indonesia that night, which she did, obviously. She's hardly going to be like, can I bargain you down to 8, fella? Can I do 8 including postage? Is that alright? Yeah. However, this hasn't stopped her trying to, continue to rage people in the close of 2025. She did announce she would be doing the Australian Schoolies tour again, but did you know that? Neither did I. Like, stuff isn't hitting anymore. Like, doing it the second time, people are like, oh, yeah, like, you've done much worse stuff than this. We actually don't really care about this anymore. Like, we just know that you're really odd. And to me, it kind of screams that, she's trying to maintain this attention, which, is never going to happen. And I don't know if they've also run out of ideas. Like, what more can you really do to shock people? There's nothing. I know I keep saying it, but you've already done it. You took the fast track to fame. And now this is the repercussions of it. Now, in going into 2026, she has also made TikToks talking about how she was like, detained by the police. But it's not really catching any fire. Like, nobody's talking about it.
Excuse my hair, I've got a hair mask in. Thought I'd give you an update on the police situation. Meeting the lawyer and going to the police station tomorrow. Slim chance I could be spending 24 hours in custody, but that's a problem for tomorrow. I'm thinking go in pyjamas and fresh skincare in case I do. Don't think they would let me take my colouring book, so that's quite sore. Don't think I'm going to take my phone because there's a chance my phone could be devised. Confiscated. Oh, they could ask to confiscate my devices.
Say here, like, this is the first time I've watched a new Blue video since the last time I was planning a video, and you can tell she's trying to put a bit more personality into it, but she never built a brand off the personality aspect, obviously it was off the shocking stunt. So it just seems a bit, to me, it just seems like the brand shift is just a little bit, like, I don't really understand it, But I do think she is clever enough to kind of understand that, her original content formula isn't working anymore, and that's why she is switching up the content. She does a lot more kind of day in the life and get ready with me's now than she ever did before.
Just got out of the shower, so do my skincare with me. Starting off with Medicube Zero Pore Pad Mild. I think you can get these in stronger or mild, but I have quite sensitive skin, so my sister got me mild. They have leaked though, so I don't know how I'm gonna get these to travel.
Now, as you can see, if you didn't know anything about Blue, you would watch this and be like, oh, this just seems like chill. I can put this on when I'm getting ready or doing whatever. But obviously, like, the primary audience for watching a Get Ready With Me where a girl's doing her makeup is generally going to be girls. But when I said previously in this video, when Bonnie was attacking women and being like, you don't serve men well enough, I think that was her biggest issue later down the line when she tried to attempt to change branding, because she's already women up, and women's first impression of her is like saying that they need to serve men. So why would you want to watch her do a Get Ready With? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It really just makes no, like, it's so hard for people to get past that first impression. And just from Bonnie's perspective, like, on this channel, Donuts, I never try and attack people or anything. I don't call people names. I just try and understand why people are the way that they do and why their actions are the way they are. And I do hope, like, as of present day, Bonnie kind of realizes that, she doesn't actually need to be as like, rage baity, and she doesn't need to piss people off to actually gain an audience. Some people will never follow her for her Get Ready With Me content or her normal content because what she's done in the past. She's probably made peace with that. But if she does continue to just kind of, be herself and not put on this performative character of, like, pissing people off, in 5 years, she genuinely could probably get away from this. And I know that sounds crazy to say right now, but even if she just used a normal name, like, and get away from that brand, I can easily see her becoming like like an average influencer. And like I say at the end of all my videos, I do hope that mentally now she is doing a lot better than what she seemed to be doing then. It seemed like there was a lot of dissociation, is that how you say that, going on when she was doing all of these events. Like I mentioned in the specific quote from the doc, she says she can just switch her brain off. Hopefully, now she doesn't feel like she needs to do that, because that's not good for anyone's mental health, to go through all of that trauma and kind of block it out and act like it's not happening. That is not healthy for anybody. It doesn't even need to be on such an extreme level like that, even on just like everyday level. I don't know why we got deep at the end there, but hopefully you did enjoy this video. I wanted this to be more of like a video essay rather than just reacting, taking the because, you know, I do have other videos like this, but I'm trying to do a variety of content on here, and I just really wanted to kind of understand the psychological kind of nature behind Bonnie and just cover our entire journey for you, to let you make your own deductions about her. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, donuts. If you do want to watch another video from me where I do this type of video on a huge celebrity called Amy Schumer and why she is one of the most hated comedians that has ever lived, I cover her entire journey, the rise, the peak, and the fall. I'll see you over there. Bye-bye.
Cam Kirkham, baby.